On the surface, these two photos look like ordinary photos someone just randomly took. But upon a closer look, these two photos actually tell one of the most powerful stories I've seen and heard in a while. And to understand that story, we need to go outside. There's this garden in the city I live in. It's fairly green with different kinds of trees growing in it and this fancy fountain in the center. But what's intriguing to me the most about it is this path. This path shows that people clearly don't take the route that was designed for them, but instead they walk through here. And they've been doing it so much that an entirely new incidental path has been created because of it. Now, that intersection right there is an interesting spot. That's where what is dictated to people and what people actually will diverge. This phenomena of self-made routes has a name. It's called desire paths. If you search desire paths online, it's mostly discussed in terms of architecture and urban design. You read stories like the one about architect Riccardo Marini, who mapped out places where people throw bubblegum and cigarette butts in order to learn where they actually walk and build routes especially for them. Or how Michigan State University didn't build any pavement routes in its confines, but instead waited for its students to pave their own desire paths first. These are all extremely interesting stories that make us think about how we interact with our environment. But desire paths show me of something much deeper in us as human beings. Desire paths are the manifestation of people's deep-rooted, inherent desire to do what's right for them, regardless of what others dictate it to be. These two photos were taken by Dutch photographer Jan Dirk van der Burg. They're part of a photo album he called Olifantenpaadjes, elephant paths. That's the Dutch word for desire paths. This photo has a man in it, who has the most typical appearance of a corporate guy. The button-down shirt that's tucked in, the suitcase, and even the cliché balding head. He's the image of a guy who's followed the paved path his entire life. Yet deep down, in his inherent subconscious act of walking, of moving forward, he's taking the desire path. This picture has two ladies riding their bikes in it. They're quite similar, only the one on the right seems a bit older. Maybe it's a mother and her daughter. In any case, the older lady is taking the paved path, while her daughter is taking the desire path. There's a beautiful story told in both pictures that raises questions worth evaluating. Questions like, in what aspects in our lives are we treading a path someone else paved? Who paved it and why? Do we agree with the direction? Or do we want to pioneer our own new ways? I recently made a shift in my life, and from treading a more paved path, I decided to pursue this video making as a trade. In many aspects, this is very much a divergence in my road. In a previous video, I shared a bit about those voices I have in my head, telling me this thing I'm doing is garbage and stupid. If I dig deep into the source of those voices, I understand it's rooted in this paved path I once treaded. I also mentioned in that same video that those voices can't stop me. And it's true, they can't, and won't. Because this understanding, where they're coming from, is what allows me to win over them and tread my desire path more confidently. And it's thanks to these two photos that I'm reminded of that. I hope that after watching this video, you'll start noticing desire paths a bit more often. And I also hope that every time you do, you'll ask yourself those questions. Not only in terms of your occupation in life, but just with everything. One thing I do want to point out, by no means do I endorse defying the words of our elders or parents or breaking the law or anything of that sort. What I am saying is this. It is extremely valuable to us as human beings to understand what are the forces that work on us and make us think what we think and believe what we believe. Because only when we understand them, we can truly understand ourselves. I'll see you next week. Hi everyone, just adding a few more things while the end screen is rolling. First, I will link Jan Dirk van der Burg's photo album in the description below. He's got some really interesting stuff, I really recommend you to give it a look. Second, in my research I learned that desire paths have many names in many languages, but I couldn't find one in Hebrew. I therefore hereby coined the term myself, and I chose Netivei Kisufim, lanes of yearnings. Not only do I just love the word lane in Hebrew, nativ, but this word also hints on the verb lenatev, to direct, to route, reminding us that it's in our power to pioneer those new paths. If you enjoyed or found value in this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And talk to me in the comments, I'm there. Okay, done with the blabbering. See you next week.